But you know what? Even though they didn't know what DNA was back in Shakespeare's day, they still understood heredity, and they knew that, if somebody's beautiful, they might have beautiful children.
If there's a blonde lady, the kid's gonna be blonde. There's the whole thing with like, oh, what were you stooping the milkman?
Okay, yeah.
I wonder if that's how they found out about, the passing down of genes.
Well, they found out about the passing down of genes by a monk named Gregor Mendel, who experimented on peas.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And then, who designed the Punnett square? Somebody Punnett, I'm sure.
I think originally, this is a great one, I think originally it was called the Mendel Square.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then, I guess he didn't fill out the correct paperwork for his copyright. And so Punnett came along.
Punnett swooped in.
Alright, so let me write that down.
Dr. Punnett is the original patent troll.
Punnett Square, and then, I'll know what to look up from there.
So Mendel was a monk. Who was Punnett?
I think he was a stand-up comedian. I have no idea if Punnett is even a person.
Boom, 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 boom.
Was that Seinfeld music?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stand-up comedian that Punnett would be? Like, have you ever noticed that people with brown hair, when they create a child with somebody with blonde hair? I mean, what is the deal with the brown-haired kids outnumbering the blonde-haired kids 3-1?
Oh, man, that's perfect.
Remember how we started talking about the 1983 World Series last week?
Yes.
I said something about Cal Ripken. When I put the show together last week, I heard myself say, not always the best offensive player, but great defensive player. I looked at his numbers. I could not be more wrong.
He was always the best offensive player.
I didn't know that he had so many. He had 431 home runs. That's a lot. Anyway, so, it was really important to me that at some point in the show this week, I apologized to Cal Ripken and his family and the entire Baltimore Oriole organization.
Throughout history.
I've already said far too many Cal Ripken Jr. stats on the show. And very little about William Shakespeare. Very little.
So let's hop into William Shakespeare then.
Sonnet 27.
I honestly think that, this is real talk, I feel like our little experiment here has helped me in my regular daily work life.
How so?
Like, I don't know, I think just I'm able to think and solve problems a little bit more on the fly, out in public, open forum.
In your office, when people pass back and forth memos that you have to read, are they written in Elizabethan lyrical poetry style?
Yes,
okay,
actually
so
it is.
You really have been struggling for years in this job.
But like I said, it's really helping in my work.
So I like how you just slyly started a podcast with me, and it just happened to be about analyzing Shakespeare, when it is exactly the skill that you needed as a financial analyst at a bank.
So just to clear this up, in case my line of work comes up in the future someday, and people aren't thrown, like our avid listeners aren't thrown.
Our 5 listeners.
I'm actually a business analyst.
Business analyst. Oh, okay.
I used to be a financial analyst, but I've moved into the business realm.
Oh, whatever. I can't keep track of what you're doing.
Forget finance. It's all about business.
I've already forgotten it. All right. So, okay, businessman. Sonnet 27. That's your business this week.
Sonnet number 27. Weary with toil, I haste me to my bed. The dear repose for limbs with travel tired. But then begins a journey in my head to work my mind when body's work expired. For then my thoughts from far where I abide intend a zealous pilgrimage to thee, and keep my drooping eyelids open wide, looking on darkness which the blind do see, save that my soul's imaginary sight presents thy shadow to my sightless view, which like a jewel hung in ghastly night makes black night beauteous and her old face new. Lo! Thus by day my limbs, by night my mind, for thee and for myself no quiet find.
I was a little worried after the first 4 lines, after the first quatrain,
Mm-hmm.
because I thought this poem was going to be way too easy. It was like, now I lay me down to sleep. It was like I understood there was no mystery at all to what the words meant. And in the second quatrain, it still felt pretty simple to follow. Like, okay, so he's gone to sleep because he's tired, and now his mind is moving into a different place. But then in the third stanza, that's, I think, where we're going to really have to dig in, because I'm not exactly sure where it went from there. Yeah, I wasn't completely tied to it anymore.
Initial thoughts. Other than that, like initial interpretation thoughts.
I'm going to sleep because I'm tired, and my mind is going to a place maybe where I'm not tired anymore. So maybe instead of sleep, it's actually about getting old.
And dying, maybe?
Yeah, and maybe he's thinking about when he was young. As he's about to die, your mind drifts off into thinking about that.
I think that he's drawing a contrast between a person that he knows in his awake world as compared to that same person in his dream world. But I could be way off. That's just my knee-jerk interpretation.
Well, I accept your interpretation that I suddenly say in a much more clear voice out of nowhere. I just suddenly sound better with no explanation as to why I sounded terrible before and now sound much clearer. Without even acknowledging that, I will say that your theory is interesting and we shall see if it's true. Let's go to the top of the poem. Weary with toil, I haste me to my bed. That doesn't even sound like Shakespeare yet. It sounds like some guy just, speaking with a little flourish.
Yeah.
The dear repose for limbs with travel tired. All right, so this guy's does travel mean that he's actually been physically traveling around the globe, or does travel mean he's old, so he's lived a long life and that's what your travels are? I think it could be either at this point.
Yeah, let's keep them both.
Keep them both in our pocket. But then begins a journey in my head to work my mind when body's works expired.
I think that's a reference to he's beginning to dream when his body has fallen asleep.
I think so too.
Although it could be life after death.
Or that when you get old, you start reflecting on your life. A journey in your head is just recounting all the steps you've taken in your travels of life.
Ah, nice.
So let's just keep all of those and see where we go from here. From then my thoughts, from far where I abide. Does yours have parentheses?
No, mine has 2 dashes, but same thing.
2 dashes. Well, but again, we like to point out the differences between Shakespeare's-sonnets.com and Shakespeare-online.com. We like to point out those differences. So Mike has dashes, and I have parentheses around from far where I abide. So again, from then my thoughts, from far where I abide, intend a zealous pilgrimage to thee, and keep my drooping eyelids open wide, so he can't sleep, looking on darkness which the blind do see.
Wait, is it he can't sleep, or is it he's falling asleep and trying to keep them open?
Intend, so my thoughts, from far where I abide, so my thoughts which are not connected to my body, they're like my mind is out in space right now.
Yeah, so I'm thinking the dream world or death.
Dream world, death,
or old age.
Or old age, or just when you have disconnected thoughts, like you're not in your body right now. Intend a zealous pilgrimage to thee. I'm going to be thinking about you a lot.
Or pilgrimage, like in terms of travel, right?
Yes, but just my thoughts intend to travel. My thoughts intend a zealous pilgrimage. And keep my drooping eyelids open wide. So to me, that seems like my thoughts about you are going to keep me up at night.
Drooping eyelids open wide. I still want to hold on to the idea although I'm not married to it. But I want to hold on to the idea that he is attempting to keep his eyelids open.
Yes.
As well as, but I also see what you're saying.
He could be about to die, and he's keeping himself alive because of you, or whoever thee is. So either I'm about to fall asleep and I'm trying my best to stay awake, or I'm about to die and I'm trying my best to stay awake, or my original theory, which is I feel like I'm falling asleep, but my thoughts of you are keeping me up. We have a lot of balls in the air right now, but I think we could juggle all of our theories and see if there's a slam dunk at the end and makes us choose one of these.
I just got an image of a guy in like Cirque du Soleil juggling basketballs.
And in the end, he's going to dunk one of them.
Yeah, off of one of those trampolines.
And he knows the whole time which one it is. Like it has like this tiny little mark on it, so there's no way he'd be able to see it as he's juggling. He just knows how many times he juggles, and so this is going to end on my right hand at this point when I'm standing on the basketball court, and I'm going to dunk this ball.
Do you think that there's a juggling act where they juggle on a trampoline? Is that possible?
I can't say for sure, but I'm almost positive that there are jumping trampolinists. Or trampolining jugglers, excuse me.
I want to look that up later.
Trampoline juggler.
Because that's just something I want to see.
Trampoline juggler, yeah. All right, so let's jump into that third quatrain and see what it says. Save that my soul's imaginary sight presents thy shadow to my sightless view. I can't sleep, and I'm sitting here in darkness, and it's terrible unless I can get my mind to focus on an image of you, which, like a jewel hung in the ghastly night, makes black night beauteous, and her old face new. Yes, the image of you is going to make this black night beautiful and bearable.
Yes. Oh, and then the couplet at the end. Lo, thus by day my limbs, by night my mind, for thee and for myself no quiet find.
During the day, I have to work hard. During the night, my mind works hard because it's thinking of you. So me, as a whole person, I get no rest. You keep me up all night, and work keeps me up all day. But it's kind of beautiful.
All right, so after reading that couplet at the end, I feel like this is, he's talking about falling asleep and dreaming. What are you?
Yes, but that when he's able to dream of you, his mind goes wild. When I'm dreaming of you, my mind goes wild. So I'm exhausted. It's almost like he's complaining about how tired, his body never gets any rest, but it's with a wink. It's because you kept me up all night. Yeah.
It's all tongue in cheek.
Yeah, it's a compliment because that's how much I'm thinking about you. And he's saying it like, oh, it's like a joke. It's like that joke. Not that joke, that pickup line. Hey, are you tired? No? Why? Because you've been running through my head all day. Haven't you? Isn't that one of the pickup lines? Like a bad pickup line?
It's a pickup line that's worked on me. I'll just say that.
Wow. So basic in what you'll accept.
So let's go from the top, do a final summation of what we think.
You seem a little disappointed.
No, I was going to say that I really like this sonnet.
There just wasn't as much to pick apart. We didn't have to look up any words. We knew pilgrimage.
But watch, this is going to be like our biggest miss yet.
Yes.
It'll be about
it's a condemnation of blacksmiths. Like he wrote this as a political essay against the blacksmith union.
Yeah, I just want to reread it and make sure that we're solid on it.
All right.
In our interpretation. Weary with toil, I haste me to my bed. The dear repose for limbs with travel tired. So he's tired. But then begins a journey in my head. So I start... Oh, okay, so maybe this is, like when you're laying in bed and you can't sleep.
Yeah.
That's the journey.
That's the journey.
To work my mind when body's work expired. For then my thoughts from far where I abide intend a zealous... I keep saying zealous, but I mean zealous. A zealous pilgrimage to thee. so my thoughts kind of wander around to you. And keep my drooping eyelids open wide. That's what it is. So he can't sleep because he's thinking of her or him.
Yeah, you're keeping me up all night.
So I think, yeah, now that we've read the whole thing and kind of interpreted it, that makes a little bit more sense.
And the intend a zealous pilgrimage to thee, I think it's the thoughts are not randomly drifting to you. They are organized and going. This is the most important thing. This is our pilgrimage.
There's lots of intent in my thoughts.
I think about you. Do you understand? I think about you at night, and I can't sleep. And then I work all day, and I'm tired. Get out of my thoughts and into my car.
So looking on darkness...
Do you know that song, Get Out of My Dreams and Into My Car?
No. I thought you were just saying that. And I just skipped right over it, too. I accepted it like it was nothing.
It's a genius line, and you thought I just came up with it? I'm calling this song from the 1980s a genius line.
Is it Billy Joel?
No. Get out of my dreams and into my car.
Oh, yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
Song. Yeah, who is that?
Ooh, I don't know. Billy. What are all the Billies? Billy Ocean.
Billy. All I can think of is what the heck? Who's the lead singer
Billy
from Green
Idol.
Day?
Oh, Billy Joe Armstrong.
Green Day is Billy Joe Armstrong?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was his last name.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're catching me by surprise here.
What? That I knew the lead singer of Green Day?
No, that his name was Joe Armstrong, or Armstrong anyway.
All right. I mean, you're all of a sudden making me doubt myself.
I thought his name was Billy. No, Billy Joel is your favorite artist.
Well, hold on. Let's
aside from the Beatles and Elton John.
I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying let's not go broadcasting this.
Oh, why not? Those are great things to be huge fans of.
They'll hear you. Talk about how I like the Decemberists and stuff. That makes me look cooler.
Every time I hear a Billy Joel song, I think of you.
Who doesn't in this day and age? Who doesn't think of Scott when Billy Joel comes on the radio? Oh, Billy Joe Armstrong. We'll just look it up, make sure I'm right. Because just like with Cal Ripken, if I'm wrong about something something that I think is I just don't want to sound so stupid. That's what these trivia questions are all about. So if I'm wrong and it's Billy Joe Hemingway, like, oh, of course, Billy Joe Hemingway. I can't believe I forgot that it's the same last name as Ernest Hemingway. Stupid of me. All right. So were we, halfway through, or were we...
Where were we?
Were we done?
Looking on darkness, which the blind do see. So, again, images of this guy laying in bed, unable to sleep, but he doesn't have the internet or computers and YouTube. So it's completely dark. Save that my soul's imaginary sight presents thy shadow to my sightless view. That line right there, I think, is really nice.
Save that my soul's imaginary sight presents thy shadow to my sightless view. Yeah, because it's not actually you, let's not forget. It's just my thought of you. So it's a shadow of you.
Yeah. And his soul's imaginary sight, too? That's pretty
yes,
awesome.
It's more than just your imagination. Imagination sounds like such a basic thing that's going on. Like, hey, I was imagining eating a really good donut the other day. No, that's not what I was doing. I was using my soul's imaginary sight.
That's the line right there that makes me think, oh, this has got to be some Shakespeare.
Yes, finally Shakespeare has emerged.
Which, like a jewel hung in ghastly night, makes black night beauteous, and her old face new. The old face new kind of throws me a little bit. That's the only thing in this whole sonnet that I'm a little bit unsure of. How about you?
Well, I'll pitch this. That night is the end of day, so that is the old part of the day is night. But thinking about you, that makes me feel almost like it's morning. It's the rebirth. You're bringing something young to this old night by bringing something fresh.
Yeah. That's good. Or also in the same vein as that, it kind of maybe wakes me up.
Yes, you are Irish Spring. You are Folgers.
And then the couplet, lo, thus by day my limbs no quiet find. By night my mind no quiet find. For thee...
Wait, what are you saying, no quiet find?
I'm just throwing it in there. Because
by day my limbs no quiet. I gotcha. So because of those commas. All right, so you're doing the distributive property.
Is that what that is called?
Yeah, so you have A plus B in parentheses, and then you have the C outside of the parentheses.
Oh.
You could distribute the C, so you have AC plus BC. So that's what you're doing. By day, my limbs, no quiet find. By nights, my mind, no quiet find. Distributive property.
For thee, no quiet find, and for thee and for myself, no quiet find.
So you get no rest either, because like that pickup line. You're running through my mind. It's just like that pickup line.
Oh man,
they got it from Shakespeare.
Was such a player.
Shakespeare, dirty.
He probably was a player, man.
If he was a real guy, we got to keep our skepticism. We got to keep our healthy, crazy skepticism.
Oh yeah, we got to keep our conspiracy theorist listeners as well.
Yeah. No, but I'm sure that Shakespeare did quite well. He obviously knew a thing or two about love, so he must have experienced some stuff in his life. So I feel like we got the whole thing. I'm tired all day because I'm working, and you got to be doing something. I don't know what you're doing all day, but you're doing something. When I go to sleep at night, guess what? I don't go to sleep at night. I'm just thinking of you. I'm staring into blackness, except sometimes my mind makes a pilgrimage to you and creates this image of you. And then that's all I could think about. But it's great in a way. It feels like a brand new day. So I'm tired because I get no rest. And hey, you got to be tired too, because you were in my thoughts last night again.
I love those recaps. Like the modern lingo recaps. Those are great. You're really good at that.
I sound like such a modern person talking when I do that. That's exactly how modern people talk. I get that a lot.
You're so modern.
There's something you have to know about me before we go on this date. I've been called a very modern man. By the way, I talk very modern.
Oh, man.
All right, so are you ready to hit the books?
Well, first, what do you think about this sonnet? What do you feel? You like it?
Yeah, I think it's... I guess the word cute is kind of insulting, but I guess that's also a little bit the way I feel. Because,
I totally know what you're talking about. Because
other sonnets have made me think of love in slightly deeper ways. It's good for my job. I'm a professional lover. It's good for my. So it's made me think about love and relationships and human connection in a deeper way. This doesn't, because I think this is more of not a pickup line, but a line. Because I don't think he's actually an insomniac here. I think it's just kind of a sweet thing to say in a way that makes it sound like you're complaining. So I think it's cute. I think it's romantic. But I don't think there's that depth and revelation that we've experienced before.
Yeah, I agree completely. Although I feel like it's so accessible. This is such a relatable concept of, we've all been there. You're tossing and turning in bed at night because you can't stop thinking about somebody, but he explains it so well here. He puts pen to paper so well and makes it beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's a poem that a subject in which we could all write a poem,
but only Shakespeare could write it so beautifully.
Well, he is one of a few.
Yeah, maybe Pablo Neruda could do it too.
For sure. I think his would be better. All right.
Pablo Neruda, that's a name that I've added to my arsenal of just name dropping in everyday life because of this whole podcast experience.
Yeah.
Another thing that's made my daily work life better.
Because you work at the Pablo Neruda
printing press.
I was going to say the gift shop at the museum, But what would be great is if they called the gift shop at the museum the printing press.
Nice.
And people ask, where do you work? And you're like, oh, I work at a printing press. And like, oh, that's kind of interesting. That's cool. So what do you do there? I just sell the magnets and the license plate frame covers. It's a gift shop at a museum. The Pablo Neruda Museum.
You should see our sweaters. They're amazing.
Yes. I also interned at another printing press. It's actually a printing press, but I wanted both to show up on my resume. All right, so we're going to go check the books now. So we'll be back on Mike and Scott Read a Poem.
Slam dunk! I think we did a pretty good job on this one.
Slam dunk, but it doesn't win the slam dunk contest.
Slam dunk, but we didn't win the slam dunk contest. You're right. Did Muggsy Bogues win the slam dunk contest?
Muggsy Bogues, no.
I remember he was in one.
Spud Webb is the one that won.
Oh shoot! Yeah, you're right. It's Spud Webb.
And Nate Robinson also has one, possibly two of them, and he's just as short.
So, but did he win the one that he was in? Do you think?
Spud Webb?
Yeah.
Both of those people have won. Spud Webb and Nate Robinson have both won slam dunk contests.
Wow, Spud Webb winning a slam dunk. You think the fact that he was so short kind of helped him?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll bring that back to us here. The fact that we're so short of, I don't know,
resources,
literary experience,
time.
Yeah, this is a huge slam dunk for us. If we were judging ourselves on ourselves, we'd.
Yeah, sometimes slam dunks happen in the middle of the game, and they're not the big elaborate slam dunks that happen in slam dunk contests. So maybe they rattle in the rim just a little bit, but no, this really was. We jumped up with one hand and we threw the ball through the hoop and held on to the rim for a second. Yeah, and the crowd went crazy.
We didn't quite break the backboard, but we almost did.
Yeah, but we're also not that heavy.
So what we're referring to is the fact that we didn't catch the idea that the writer of the poem is traveling.
Even though he said travel.
See, now what I wanted to say is I feel like because we've been doing these interpretations weekly, a lot of times I read a little bit too far into some of the...
We see a word like travel and we say, well, he obviously doesn't mean travel.
Yeah,
means his
we see
thoughts
travel.
are traveling.
Oh, it means that he's gone through his life. He's lived a great life.
And we think that seriously. Like, we really held on to that idea. Like, I was putting money on the table. I was like, okay, travel means he's in his 80s. It's obvious. He's in his 80s and he's traveling through life. Next, please. Next sonnet. Let's not even finish this one. But no, it actually means, hey, last week you and I were having breakfast in bed together. And then I had to get on a carriage and go across the country to do something for business. And now we are days apart. And I'm lying here, staring into the darkness, thinking of you.
Yep. So the line that we're referring to is, weary with toil, I haste to meet to my bed. The deer repose for limbs with travel tired. That travel is literal travel.
Literal
the deer,
travel.
According to Shakespeare's-sonnets.com, who we really, really like.
Or have found quickly. It's one of the first things that popped up.
The owner of Shakespeare's-sonnets.com says, the only practicable form of transport was on horseback, and here a similar journey away from the youth seems to be described. So when Shakespeare mentions the deer repose for limbs with travel tired, somehow the deer is a reference to a horse, right?
Yes, how did we miss that? Even when we went back to look at the interpretations, I didn't scroll that far down on that page. So I didn't realize that I hadn't even really thought about the deer. The deer repose for limbs well travel. I guess I thought the word the was the word my. Like he's just saying, hey, my dear, my limbs are tired from traveling.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I read what I wanted to read. Yeah, I'm glad that you pointed out that the deer repose is the animal that I'm traveling on, which the website's saying would be a horse, but here he's just calling it a deer. Doesn't really say why he's calling it a deer.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, but that's not this kind of show where we're going to really investigate that. We're just letting you know that now the deer thing is kind of a mystery. And the fact that we didn't even question it, I'm going to take off even more points. We've gone from an A, now we're at an A-. One more strike, and we're at a B+.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Other than that, I honestly think that we did a great job in interpreting this. Not because we're geniuses, but because this is a somewhat easier sonnet to interpret, because there's not so much, what do you call it?
There's not as much mystery to the language.
Yeah.
We didn't have to look up words or learn how words that we know were used differently, except we should have looked up the word deer. What's a deer?
I like this sonnet a lot, and I don't know if it's because I was able to understand it just really easily, or if I really do think it's the whole concept that it's such a simple idea that he's written so beautifully, in my opinion.
But I have to also point out the other interesting thing that we found on, I think, Shakespeare's sonnets. Before this sonnet was written, a lot of sonnets at the time were about the pain and anxiety that lovers feel when they're apart. So this is just another poem with that theme. So he added this kind of maybe smugness to it. It kind of, as the website says, pokes fun at all those other sonnets that's about, oh, I miss you because we're apart.
Yeah. And just as a side note, we're not paid by the makers of Shakespeare's-sonnets.com yet.
Not yet.
No, but we do use that website as a reference, and I really, really like how they break the sonnets down almost line by line and interpret each line for you in kind of just regular English, modern day English anyway. So if you're following along with us and just kind of like reading online or reading the sonnet with us, Shakespeare's-Sonnets is a good resource for interpreting these things.
Or if you're wearing Google Glass, go ahead and pull it up now. And just record it, because you're going to want to watch a video of it later.
That's going to be such an obscure reference, because I don't think Google Glass is going anywhere.
Not going to catch on?
Yeah, a year or two from now, people are going to be like, what? They're going to have to look up Google Glass when they hear our podcast on the radio. So,
like, what kind of glass was it? Like you would pour orange juice in it? Yeah. It could let you look up any flavor orange juice on Earth, and it would just appear in your glass. Well, that sounds awesome.
I'm going to invent... Yeah, I want to invent a Google Glass that when you pour stuff in it, the side of the glass displays information about your drink.
Oh, wow. Each drink is coated with the chemical information. Which then it doesn't just tell you the chemical information, it tells you who created it and where this particular drink came from, which warehouse it was stored
You're
in.
drinking Coca-Cola.
This was mixed in Pennsylvania, bottled in Pennsylvania, shipped to Santa Ana warehouse, stored in Santa Ana warehouse 3 months. I don't know why it's talking to you like this.
Distributed by Santa Ana Distribution Co.
To Costa Mesa Albertsons. Here's a video of you purchasing it.
That'd be so scary if liquids carried this kind of information in the future. They will, though.
Then you drink it, and there's like a bunch of computer chips on your tongue. You're like, oh, this is unacceptable. This is gross.
Spit out computer chips.
Whole bunch of computer chips in there. That's how they do it.
Okay, I give us a solid A. I'll take away a point for us not knowing that the writer of the sonnet was traveling, but so I'll give us an A-.
And I take away 2. We went from an A+ to an A to an A- because we didn't know that the person was traveling, and we didn't question what the deer repose was. So A-, but we got the theme. We did a nice little dance with it. So now we are going to look up our trivia questions. Punnett Square, that's the most interesting one. Maybe we'll save that one for the end. All right? If you want to... We got to get our ratings up at the end of the show, so people Punnett Square coming up at the very end. Trampoline juggler. I guess trampoline juggler, you're probably going straight to YouTube for that.
Yep.
Get out of my dream and into my car. I also think his name might be Rick something.
Not Rick Astley.
Who knows? I don't think so. But I'm sorry that I don't know this. I really don't think it's Billy Ocean. So that time that I said it was Stevie Wonder and it was Billy Preston, I was confident. And I was confident with Neil Diamond. I am not, but even though I was wrong, I am not confident with Billy Ocean.
Oh, and wait, who's Billy Idol?
He's a white wedding. It's a nice day for a white wedding.
Oh, okay.
So not the same upbeat, perky, get out of my dreams and into my car. Billy Joe Armstrong will just double check that. I'm sure I'm right. Also, something I wanted to point out about the Muppets from last week. Remember Muppet Babies?
Uh-huh.
There's another thing I think I said wrong, even though I didn't look it up. I said that Kermit had the dream sequence in Muppets Take Manhattan where they were in the nursery together. Upon further reflection, I think it was Piggy that was having the dream sequence.
We're going to start having a corrections segment.
Yes. So I've corrected on Cal Ripken, and now I'm correcting on Miss Piggy. It is a creepy thought, though, to look at somebody that you love. You're both adults, and you're looking at somebody that you love, and you're like, man, I wish I was in a nursery with him, with all of our friends. I wish we were little babies in a nursery together. That's how attracted I am to that frog over there. All right. So I'm not looking it up, but I'm pretty sure that it was Piggy's fantasy, not Kermit's fantasy. So we're going to look up those trivia questions, and we'll be right back on Mike and Scott Read a Poem.
I looked on Google and I looked on YouTube to try to find anything about some sort of an act where they're juggling on a trampoline. I couldn't find anything, man. I don't know if... I did find... I'll take that back. I did find one video of a guy juggling in his backyard on a trampoline. But to be honest, it's not that impressive because he's basically... Every time he hits the trampoline, he's throwing one ball up at a time. So he's got like 2 balls in his hands. He hits the trampoline, he throws one of them up and catches the other one. It's just... It doesn't look like real juggling.
And it's tennis balls. I want to see... bowling pins or whatever,
or
they
chainsaws
juggle.
At least.
Yeah,
at the very minimum, chainsaws.
Well, no, I would think of these at the maximum for chainsaws. I don't want to see anything beyond chainsaw. I don't even know what's beyond chainsaw, but I don't want to see it.
Damn, that would be a Cirque du Soleil to buy a ticket to.
I don't even want to see. No, I wouldn't want to see chainsaw. I don't care if you could do it. I don't trust you. I'm scared. I don't want to see it.
Chainsaw juggling on a trampoline, Cirque du Soleil, please. My theory on why there's not much like big ticket acts doing juggling on trampolines is it may not look all that impressive. While it's incredibly difficult, probably, I don't think it looks that impressive because the balls are just not in the same momentum as you are. It's a weird thing.
It would take a lot. As you're jumping up, you would have to release the bowling pins. I wonder if they're called... I wonder if they have a name, but it's too late. We can't look up more trivia. What jugglers juggle, you know when it looks like bowling pins?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what those are called.
Those are bowling pins. Those are pins.
They're not called something else when jugglers have them?
Maybe
we'll look that
pins
up next week. For next week's show.
All right.
Anyway, as they're jumping up, the pins would appear to be coming down. Because normally as you throw a pin up, you're stationary. But now you're traveling up. And as you're falling down, the pins are staying at eye level. Your hands would have to be coming up. It would be incredible. But I'm sure somebody could learn how to do it. Maybe it's impossible. Who knows?
So this is an open call out to our listeners.
You want to impress us? Don't read Shakespeare. Jump on a trampoline. Real big jumps now. Real big jumps.
Yeah, and juggle some chainsaws.
Juggle 3? Mike's crazy. Just juggle 3 bowling pins. I don't want anybody to get hurt. It's dangerous enough as it is. They could slip, they could fall, they could break their leg, they could really hurt themselves. We don't have to add chainsaws into this.
We're gonna get sued by some kid, like some 12-year-old kid who
Some
tried it.
25-year-old man who does it, and he's still gonna blame us. And we're gonna be like, yeah, I mean, I'll be like on the stand. I'll be like, I told Mike not to say that on the show. Yes, but don't you edit it? Yeah, but I can't edit out the truth. All right, get out of my dreams and into my car. The one time that I was not confident about my answer, and I'm right, it was Billy Ocean.
Oh, Billy Ocean.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Billy Joe Armstrong, that is his name. And I had heard a while ago that he was going to have an album with Norah Jones. Well, it's out now. And I listened to a little bit of the first song on YouTube. Did you hear me when I was saying, oh, this is beautiful? Did you hear me say that? Mm-hmm. I was talking about what I was hearing. It's very nice. I really like it.
So, Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day.
Green Day. And Norah Jones have done an album together.
Ah. What's the style? Is it like ballads or...
Yeah, the one song I was listening to had a very country feel to it.
Mm.
And the last thing, it is called the Punnett Square. Every once in a while you see Mendel Square pop up, so I don't know if I must have had a teacher that had called it that at one point. Because you type in Mendel Square, it does show up, but Punnett Square is by far the term to use. I mean, that people say Punnett Square.
But they are the same thing.
They are the same thing.
Oh, okay.
The Punnett Square is based on the principles introduced by Mendel. So who was Punnett? He was born in 1875. His name is Reginald Crundle Punnett.
Reggie Punnett.
Yeah. He also, another notable work, he founded the Journal of Genetics, which I'm guessing is a big deal. He died in 1967.
That's not that long ago. What the heck?
Not that long ago.
What?
So he was from England.
Man, it really puts into perspective how how old our science is. Some of our science is not that old.
Yeah, well, interesting that you bring that up. In the little bit that I read, it said how Mendel discovered all this stuff and wrote about it, and then for a long time, scientists, they went away from it, and now they're coming back.
Really?
Well, Mendel was the one that brought us back in, I don't know, the early, 1910 or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it said, if he had some, professor that guided him towards that study, but then once he was on it, he was on it.
That's really not that long ago in human history.
Ago, yeah.
That's crazy.
They didn't map the DNA until...
That's within the last 10 years.
What's his name? Francis Crick? His name is Francis
No, Francis Ford Coppola.
Francis Ford Coppola, and he mapped it 3 times, and the third one people say is not that great, but I still think it's pretty good. All right. So tonight, when you go to bed and you're trying to sleep and your eyes are wide open, we hope that it's because you're thinking about Mike and Scott read a poem. You work all day and you're just trying to get some sleep, and our banter just keeps running through your head all night and you just can't fall asleep. What are you laughing at?
I'm still laughing at your Francis Ford Coppola reference.
Comparing the Human Genome Project to Godfather trilogy?
Yeah, you wrote 3 of them.
Yeah. The first one won an award, Best Human Genome Mapping. And then the second one also won the award when people thought, wow, nobody wins it twice in a row. And then the third one was released 18 years later, and people were like, I don't like this one.
Well played.
So that is how to compare DNA to Godfather. I was trying to do the whole wrap-up of comparing us to the sonnet.
Yeah, you're doing a good job.
Well, yeah, but Francis Ford Coppola. So now I have no ending for the show. I only come up with one idea per week. Yeah, so now I don't have an ending, so we'll just wrap up. What do? We read a poem. Then we analyzed it. Then we told you if we were right. Then we read our trivia questions. That's our show. There's no requirement that we have a cute ending each week.
Oh, actually, let's...
Actually, I do have a cute ending.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. What were you going to say?
Actually, let me interject here. I've got a cute ending. What was our email address? Do you?
Oh, you want to give the people our email address?
Yeah.
I don't know. Was it mnspoem@gmail.com?
I'm looking for it. I had it written down in this book, but unfortunately, my book is it's got no. There's no pages.
I think that's a great way to end the show. So if you want to send us an email, try this one and see if it works. If not, just wait till next week. Try mnspoem@gmail.com.
That's M for Mike.
The letter M.
N for and.
For and.
S
For Scott.
Suzuki.
And poem, which is for pretty, oblique, entertaining men.
Pretty meaning we are pretty.
We are pretty. Oblique meaning a word that starts with an O.
Or how about opaque? Pretty and opaque.
We are not translucent.
Yeah.
Would that be the opposite, or should I have said transparent?
No, I think oblique or opaque means
You can't see through it.
non-transparent.
And then what's translucent? Does it have a glow? What's translucent?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think translucent is is something that's see-through and glowy. I'm not sure.
So that's actually why Shakespeare's up all night, because you are actually a translucent person. So he stares up into the darkness, and there you are, glowing. You know what I loved about my wife in the beginning? She was always glowing. Now I can't get any sleep.
Oh,
She's
you mean,
always
you
glowing.
mean like, glowing, bubbly, bright, happy personality.
No.
right?
Do you remember glowworms from the 80s? You put it up to the lamp, you turn off the lights, and the glowworms glowed. That's my wife. My wife, it's like she has a candle inside of her. I cannot sleep. Cannot sleep.
That would be pretty frightening.
All right, so there you go. There was one last riff for you. We still don't have an ending, but one more riff of Shakespeare not being able to sleep because of his translucent lover. That's all you're going to get this week. A translucent lover on Mike and Scott read a poem.